Hey everyone, my name is Fala, and I've been playing Fishing Planet now for about 4 years or about 2,900 hours. Along the way, I've won some competitions and a tournament, while getting a lot of valuable experience from other high-level players. Today, I'd like to think that I'm a pretty high-level player, but back when I was first starting, things were pretty overwhelming. And as a new player, Fishing Planet introduces a unique challenge of being a complex fishing simulator that expects the player to have a surface level understanding of fishing as a whole. Heck, even experienced real life fishermen may be stumped by trying to assemble a rod within the game menus. The point being, Fishing Planet can be tricky for a newer player starting out, which is why I wanted to make this video on 5 key things I wish I knew back when I was a new player. Before we get into the 5 tips, be sure to consider liking this video if you find any of these tips to be useful. Also consider subscribing to the channel for more Fishing Planet content to help newer players grow into future Fishing Planet tournament champions. The idea around having a balanced rod setup is to enable you to limit the amount of bottleneck that occurs when fighting a fish. For example, let's take a look at this setup here. This is a solid setup for smaller fish like trout that includes a 12-pound jig winner rod and pairing it with a 13-pound breamer reel. For the line, 12-pound fluoro line. The main aspects to a balanced setup are matching both your rod's maximum line weight and your line test as close to identical as possible. Aim for less than a 5-pound difference between them. The second important part of a balanced setup is picking a reel that has a max drag that is slightly lower than your rod's maximum line weight and line test. One thing to note on maximum drag, you may notice that this reel here has a 13-pound max drag, which is sort of misleading. While you can use a reel on its maximum drag, it will deteriorate quickly and it's best to avoid maximum drag unless you're in a time crunch to get a fish in. Instead, you should be looking at the reel's drag setting 1 notch down from max drag. To find this, take the reel's max drag weight and divide it by the amount of friction sections. Finally, take the maximum drag weight and subtract the number you got before to ultimately find the drag rating. Balanced setups will enable you to take on larger fish with lighter tackle, leading to more experience and a much more entertaining fight. When I first started playing, you would not believe the number of times that I caught a massive unique fish at a cool new spot that I found, only for me to forget what lure or bait I was even using to catch it. Well, luckily there's an extremely useful thing called marker buoys that display a little green buoy in the exact place you casted when catching a specific fish. To create one, simply pull out your tablet after catching the fish you wish to mark. Once your tablet is out, select marking mode and select the plus that is beside the green marker symbol. Once you set the marker, you can view it on your tablet map and it will display information such as lure or bait used, the weather, and the weight and length. You can also place a blank marker to mark where you cast from for a certain marker. Personally, I think it's a good idea to mark any fish caught in a new area to be able to have the information readily available to you in your future trips. Probably the most important mechanic in Fishing Planet that players overlook are the respawn timers that different normal, trophy, and unique fish have. A respawn timer is measured by the amount of time that elapses between first catching a fish to it respawning back into the same place it was first caught. For example, you will commonly see people fast forward 2 in-game hours when farming for white sturgeon at San Joaquin. For reference, 1 in-game hour equates to 15 minutes in real-world time. The reason they fast forward 2 in-game hours is because white sturgeon have a respawn timer of 23 minutes, which equates to 1.5 in-game hours, meaning that fast forwarding 2 in-game hours will bypass the respawn timer and will be able to be caught once again. This is an important tip to remember as a lot of beginner players will continue fishing the same spot even though fish are on their respawn cooldowns. So it's important to diversify your fish locations to avoid having to wait for fish cooldowns. Respawns are also essential to understand when learning competitions and tournaments at the highest level. So getting a good grasp of respawns and respawn timers early on will benefit you greatly. Have you ever had problems with fish often biting your line without fully taking it? Well, often it can be due to having the wrong size hook equipped for the fish you're targeting. Depending on the fish species and location, there's an optimal hook size range to follow. For example, when targeting spotted bass as a whole, a hook size between a number 1 and a 4/0 will work, but when targeting them at Lone Star Lake, a hook size of a number 1 or a 1/0 is more than enough, due to the size of the spotted bass being smaller than at a lake such as Quanchkin, where they reach larger sizes and require larger hook sizes. A good resource to use when wanting to inquire about optimal hook size ranges is a spreadsheet made by WickedViking_FP and other community members on the Fishing Planet subreddit. It includes an optimal range of hook size for every fish in the game, along with a long list of useful information. Another useful site for hook size ranges is fishingplanetcollective.com. I will be including links to both of these resources in the description below of this video. Being in the optimal hook size range of a fish will help you get consistent bites and less misses, which means faster experience for long fish farming trips and more consistent results in competitions. This one's a general tip. One major mistake that I made while leveling up was treating Fishing Planet like a money budgeting simulator. And while it is important to be mindful of saving your credits, neglecting trying different lures and fishing methods robs you of the full experience of the game. Obviously, enjoy the game however you'd like, but I'd encourage you to target fish you wouldn't normally go after. Or maybe learn how to best utilize a topwater lure. Or even learn how to go carp fishing and learn how it works. Or, if you're feeling really brave, visit Genterneusen Canal. Okay, maybe don't do that. All kidding aside, building up a knowledge base on as many different species of fish and as many techniques as possible will help translate your in-game knowledge into helpful information when trying out competitions and tournaments. A good way to help encourage yourself is to complete the explore missions at every waterway. Fishing Planet is at its very best when you decide to get creative with your fishing. And trust me, the feeling of accomplishment when a lure you wouldn't normally use catches a big unique is pretty sweet. So I encourage all of you to branch out once you learn the basics and find that secret hidden setup or a hidden fishing spot that no one else knows about. Those are 5 things that I wish I knew about when I first started playing Fishing Planet. Hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and start utilizing some of these tips early on to help navigate this complex but extremely rewarding fishing simulator. If you have any questions about any of the points made in this video, feel free to write them down in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all boatside.